Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the late game episode 44. My name is Lycan. With me, I have Jeff and Steven. How you doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Doing swell. Steven, what's
I'm
up?
doing great. I would like to let you know that I have ordered some pasta, and I'm not sure when it will arrive at my house. So
What kind of pasta?
Meaty marinara from Pizza Hut.
You know what? I used to live next to a Pizza Hut a few years ago, and it was one of the most unhealthiest things of my life because I didn't order pizzas. Those fucking pasta dishes are amazing.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're pretty decent.
You misordered, though. The marinara one's not nearly as good as the chicken Alfredo.
Ew. I don't think the chicken Alfredo one is that good.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Steven, you're frozen.
Do you think I give a fuck? Maybe I'm just not moving that much.
Oh,
Am I really frozen?
Yeah, you are. I'm gonna work on Steven while we do that. Jeff, I have a question for you. It's kind of a serious question.
Uh-oh.
So I was sitting in my car in my driveway eating French fries, contemplating life, and I was wondering, you look back to the early days of Starcraft, you see, you, Sean, Artosis, all these other guys.
Wait, which Sean? Sheth or Day 9? There's a lot of Seans.
Day 9.
Oh, okay.
You guys all there's a lot of shows, a lot of content with you guys together and whatnot. Do you guys still talk as often? Or if things kind of like died down, and if so, does that make you sad? Do you ever reflect on that? Or do you just think, hey, we're growing, going in different places, things like that?
As far as often, probably not, because when you're doing shows with people, you have much more opportunity to talk to them. So no, not on that level. But yeah, Day 9 in particular and I will touch base every once in a while. Artosis and I, Tasteless, I could count them as some of my best friends, and I still I'm fortunate enough to see them at events. Unfortunately, Day 9's, he's neck deep into making his own game, so I don't get to see him nearly as often, but yeah, it's friendships like that, and in particular, I think, I don't know if it's me or if it's gamers or what, but because we all found ourselves and our friendship online, we're okay with going pretty large periods of time without talking and then still being pretty cool. I think that's pretty awesome. Artosis and I were on the Brood War national team in 2003, and it's now, 13 years later, and it's just weird to talk about. We didn't think we would be talking about numbers that big at the time, You're, 13 years ago, I was fucking... How old was I? I was 17. I was 17 goddamn years old, man. I still couldn't see a rated R movie by myself, technically. I mean, it's just weird stuff like that. So yeah, we keep in touch. We all touch base. And some people drift apart, Let me think of the Old Boys Club. No, we still have our monthly Illuminati meetings, I guess. So no, none of us really don't talk anymore, but we're all still friends.
Okay. Hey, Steven, could you try refreshing your camera?
Yeah, sure. Off. And turning it on. Any luck?
No, it's just a scrolling thing, but at least people will now know you're there.
Okay.
Is my webcam working? Because I spent a lot of time putting this hood on, and then...
Your cam's good.
Okay, good.
Well...
All right. Hey, Steven,
is it working or no?
One of the questions was... No, it's not working, but it's fine. We'll leave it the way it is.
Okay.
It's weird, too, because this is the one that Steven decided to not wear a shirt for, and now the webcam's not working.
Oh, really I want to show off all my sick... Yeah, fuck. Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Steven,
they're lost.
Have you talked to Thorin since that episode?
No. He retweets me sometimes because we agree on a fair bit of stuff, but not.
I got to make up with him at Gfinity. That was nice.
What was there to make up for, though? He was on your show and he said that he hated Poland.
So the thing was, this is crazy. Actually, Richard Lewis should be here because Richard Lewis actually agrees with Thorin. Thorin says that I baited him into saying the things he said.
I was a shitty fucking host. It was kind of like I found a bunch of...
I mean, you might be a shitty host. That's a different discussion. But
yeah, but the idea of baiting someone and saying something wrong or controversial is really funny. It's like, hey, Jeff, I heard you're a raging racist. What do you think about black people? Then it's like, you're not blamed for how weird and bad I am.
You could bait someone. I could be like, Jeff, you do admit at least that black people do perform commit a disproportionate amount of crime. And then when you say yes, you take the quote out of context. They're you could bait somebody, I guess.
Well, think about, remember
things that he said. the things that he said like were pretty hard to like. Wasn't I don't know.
You remember the?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I guess it's my turn to be the edgy one because it's like you can put me into any question you want. I've got some controversial opinions. Just for clarification, it's not about black people out there, guys. But like, I'm still I believe myself to be held responsible for my answer. Not like, how dare you ask me about methamphetamines? You know I'm addicted to that shit. You know, it's like, oh god, wow.
The fact that during that argument he brought up like, and I know Steven, you want to say some stuff, but like you're just like I actually have friends that have like been to Poland and shit. Like after I had literally like lived in Poland for 3 fucking months, like in Warsaw, I was like, okay, dog.
Do you guys?
Oh man,
remember the Chick-fil-A incident a couple years ago, where like people were talking about how, oh hey, Chick-fil-A is anti-gay marriage and things like that, and people were like losing their mind and trying to boycott them and whatnot. Yeah. It was known before that, well before that, very publicly, that the head chef of Chick-fil-A does not support, gay marriage. The reporter went into that situation with this explicit intent to get it, brought back into, the public eye. So, I mean, if I were to play devil's advocate and say from Thorin's side, with the baiting, I think that's kind of probably similar to what he was thinking.
I mean, there is definitely an argument there, and it's not like it's a yes or no, he's absolutely wrong or
yeah.
Right. I'm of the opinion that if you are a public figure and you have an opinion and someone asks you a question about that, it is not the person's fault. Like they can put you in a bad position where you feel like if you like, let's say someone's married and they got a divorce recently and it's because they cheated on their wife or something like that. It'd be really weird if Lycan as a host was like, hey Thorin, thanks for coming on. I heard you recently cheated on your wife. And it's like, then there's no good answer to that question. And he's obviously in a bad spot. But if his opinion is that he thinks Poland is a shithole and he doesn't like the people, and he's willing to elaborate on that and go off on it, I don't care what, like, the savvy person's like, hey, like, what do you think about going to Poland? And Thorin inside is like, I hate Poland, I don't ever want to go there. But outwardly he says, it's just not for me, and it's like, it's unfortunate I don't get to do the event. I'm really excited about it, but to be honest, I'm tired from travel, and Poland's not my favorite place. Does that answer fucking like go through the internets and create this big shitstorm? Absolutely not. So that's why. And he'll be like, well, I'm just being brutally honest, that's my thing. And it's like, yeah, but also your thing is going off on people, and you happen to go off on a country you were traveling to, which is like, it turns out listen to shows, and it turns out your opinion matters, and all those things combine together to create a shitstorm. Like, yeah. If nobody cared what he said, then he wouldn't have lost a job. But kudos to him for being the kind of personality that has the fan base and has the attention where people do care what he says, If fucking Avilo comes on and is like, I don't care about BlizzCon because I hate Blizzard and I hate people, like, that'll be one Reddit thread that reaches number 7 and then falls off the face of the earth and nobody cares. He doesn't, like, lose his career because of it,
Yeah. Okay. And as far as my role in that, I look back on the episode, I've watched it twice and I can't watch it again. Like, I was a bad host. And I think
bad host.
If I think about what role I played, it was the fact that it was like I found these very...
Do you frequently do that? Role play as a bad host? Is that your kind of thing? Is that what gets you going?
My next question is, how fucking did you get the pants on? Oh, man.
All right. Hey, let's do this. We are here for a purpose, and that purpose is a show. Let's talk about that show. Let's first kick it off with something we're not going to talk too long on. We'll talk about it closer, but let's just talk about how we are in the finals for BlizzCon. We have the top 16. Jeff, who do you think's going to take it? Like, is there anyone on your mind?
I don't know. That's, on something like that, it's a funny question because it's like, okay, well, I guess Hero's the favorite because he's number 1 and he has, on paper, one of the easier matchups for him because it's PvT and he's just a god at it. But Fantasy looked really good as well. I don't know. I guess Hero's the favorite to win it, but just I think the thing that comes away from looking at that bracket for me, and I actually liked a Muslim's comment in the Reddit thread where he just kind of was like, yeah, I was looking at the top of the bracket and was like, wow, this is stupidly stacked on the top of the bracket. This must have ruined the tournament. And then you look at the bottom of the bracket, and it's got names like Parting down there and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, actually, this is legitimately probably outside of Lil Bo and minus a couple of guys that kind of petered out towards the end. This is like 12, 13 of the absolute top 16 best players on planet Earth. And casters always say that shit, and they're never telling the truth. This time, they're kind of telling the truth for the most part. This is going to be absolutely fucking bonkers.
Yeah. Lil Bo and Life. Any thoughts on that? Like, I mean, realistically, not circle jerking the foreign hope thing.
This is his best chance. If he got any Terran or any Protoss in that bracket for the most part, I feel like he would get absolutely annihilated, and they'd be really bad games. And he still is facing life, and I think nobody in their right mind outside of France would ever consider Lilbo even close to a favorite or even close to on even footing. But we're not talking 95-5. We're not talking 90-10. It's I would say it's like legitimately 65-35, 70-30, something like that, where it's like Lil Bo is really mechanically sound in that matchup. He does the same thing almost every single time. Life is going to be watching the Season 2 finals against Hydra and kind of studying those games. He's going to be watching a couple others. But for the most part, the ball's in Lil Bo's court, and he plays so differently that there's a really good chance he could do something awesome there.
All right, one last thought before we move on. Let's talk about the fact that now 3.0 is out, and that's where we're going to segue into. 3.0 is out, which means all replays do not work.
Yeah, this goes back to Brood War, though. Like, it sucks every single time because I always save replays when I beat a cool player or have a cool game or something like that, and then I'm like, oh, I'll watch that later. I never actually do. I watch a few of my lost replays, and that's about it. But this has been going on since the beginning of time. Like, replays break every time there's an update, so it sucks. It's not cool. I wish there's a way around it, but it's fine.
All right, cool beans. Steven, any comment on just BlizzCon in general before we move
Nope,
on?
not on BlizzCon, no.
Okay. All right, patch 3.0, it has dropped. First of all, let's just talk aesthetics, right? Oops. Aesthetically, it's a fucking sexy patch. I really like the
Aldaris entry thing or whatever. Is it Aldaris? Is that his name?
Calderis.
I don't think it's Calderis.
Or maybe it's Aldaris.
Artanis? Anyways, they're all
Jesus Christ, guys.
names like that. Well, Steven, name 5 fucking... Okay, there we go. Artanis. I was going to say,
But
name
Jeff, please
5
continue.
Minesweepers characters that you know names of, right? You got none, bro.
Minesweeper?
What the fuck is Minesweeper?
Not Minesweeper, fucking...
Minecraft.
Yeah, Minecraft.
Is there even a story to that game?
Well,
You
didn't
play
know,
it.
did Jesus Christ.
There you go. There you go. You shouldn't.
This isn't...
I showed him. No, yeah, it's beautiful. They updated HOTS to what Legacy of the Void is on. Obviously, it's having a lot of problems. It's kind of the big storyline on Reddit right now.
Yeah.
But
So-
it's a move in the right direction. It's gorgeous. It's awesome.
Yeah, is there any of those changes? Because some of those things hadn't really been discussed. Anything that in particular stuck out, either from a design standpoint or a...
I wish I was more interesting on that subject. I'm caveman gamer. Like whenever they do UI changes and you can add alt group to this if you hit shift tab that and stuff like that. I come around to that shit like 2 or 3 weeks later. There's people that are like, oh, finally, nerd voice. I don't know why I did that, but like, it's really exciting for them. But for me, there's no balance changes. So that's the stuff that I kind of pay more attention to, I suppose. I mean, they implemented there's a couple of balance changes, but they were pretty minor. And like the Adept one, everyone was expecting. And I guess are we going to talk about the Adept separately or just?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll go
getting
right
ahead of
into
myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, so 3.0 is out. There are going to be a lot of bugs. I think the best thing you guys can do is go out and tell people, tell Blizzard, hey, I noticed this bug. There was a great thread on the forum where a guy pretty much did what a tester would do and just tried to break shit and then documented it. So that kind of stuff really helps them out. I imagine they're releasing this patch now. I mean, they do this with every big game. They release the patch now so they can work out the final kinks before everyone goes out and decides to launch. By the way, let's talk about launch real quick, and not the same thing. Is the game ready? Nothing like that. But what is launch day like for StarCraft? This is actually going to be my first StarCraft expansion launch. I've been through World of Warcraft. The servers crash all the time. It's hard to quest, but I imagine PvP or player versus player is going to be a little different.
I'm trying to remember when they launched HOTS. One thing you're going to be guaranteed, at least it was true in Wings of Liberty, and it was true in HOTS. A pretty weird, awkward, and shitty launch party should happen. They did an outdoor one that was like it went on for 14 hours or something ridiculous like that, and I'm sure some people have really great experiences for it, but for me it was fairly embarrassing. So hopefully they'll still have that. I'm hoping for something along those lines. But then as far as the actual launch goes, I'm trying to remember. I remember the Diablo 3 launch was a catastrophe. I can't remember if the HOTS one was. I don't think so. I think it was pretty okay. I think the game came out and everyone played it pretty okay. Could be misremembering though. Steven, do you remember?
I don't. In terms of launch party, you're talking about like the Twitch streams and whatnot, like the big Blizzard official. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In terms of like the actual game launch itself, I don't remember anything bad happening. I think it just came out and people played it.
Is there like a new excitement to it? Like you feel the ladder is more, there's more people on the ladder. You see, I assume we're going to see a bunch of streamers. We'll probably see Starcraft top 3.
Yeah, there's always a flurry of excitement. Sure, the first day, yeah.
I mean, like the big streamers right now, if you watch like Rotterdam and Nanu and stuff like that, they have like 1,200, 1,300. The Muslim gets like 2,000, stuff like that. When Legacy Void launches for several weeks and hopefully longer, guys like even myself will have 2,500, and everybody else will have, the top ones will have like 4,000, 5,000. It'd be really nice, really healthy that way.
Yeah.
The other big impact too is hopefully those tournaments that are being announced, and like DreamHack is going to do. DreamHack is going to be doing a tournament for $50,000 almost 2 or 3 weeks after the launch. Hopefully that's 100,000, 120,000 viewership tournament. We're not. So for some people, they're like, well, that's still not, League of Legends or Dota numbers. No, it never will be. But if you're around 100,000 for a tournament, that's healthy and that's pretty awesome. Sponsors care about that, and that'd be good for the scene.
I think first of all, I want to see if Steven can break his. What did you peak at? Like 12, 13,000, Steven, at the launch of Legacy of the Void beta?
I don't remember, but it was something around that. I think so, but I don't remember.
Yeah, they were saying without China, it was 1.9 million or whatever on stream. Without China and without a couple other things, without Korea, I think actually even something like that. So it's just, yeah. I mean, the amount of people that are watching video games are insane. Yeah. Absolutely. And StarCraft is still one of the top games, but the margin and difference of viewership. Bless you. The top like 2 or 3 in StarCraft is huge, but that's okay. Like I hope by now the community is kind of settled in on this, because it used to be like the cutting edge mean thing to say, to be like, yeah, well, you're not Dota, boo, and like nobody actually was hurt by that. They're like, yeah, you're right. It's fucking StarCraft. It's really not nearly as big of a thing as the other games, but it's still the best game ever made, and we love it.
Yeah,
Steven would probably disagree, but I would tell you it's the best game made.
I'm excited. I want to see. I think this is a great opportunity. So any streamers that are watching or are thinking about being a streamer, whatever, you're going to get a lot of eyes on. I'm gonna try to take advantage of it. I've never really dove into the streamer pool. I've tried it for a few months, but yeah, it's a great opportunity. So don't just go there, stream, and be boring, man. This is the time to show your personality. You're gonna have a lot of eyes on you. But yeah, it's coming out, and I'm excited for the launch. And I think that's really it. Patch 3.0 is out. There's some changes made. Go check it out. Download it. It's in hot, so you don't have to have the beta if you don't already have it. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk Legacy of the Void real quick, and let's talk about the Adept specifically. Jeff, talk to us about the Adept.
So the Adept before this recent patch was controversial and problematic because it was an early core unit that tanked too damn well. Its movement ability was cool in that, especially in the early game, it really gave other players fits and was fairly easy for the Protoss player to execute. Not a whole lot of micro involved there. Certainly not as much as some of the other things. So it was easy to use, strong to use. And then in particular matchup situations, it really complicated the game in general, like against Terran Bio, Marines in particular, very strong. Zerg early game, Lings, very inadequate to deal with it, and then even Hydras have a tough time. So if you just go like Ling Hydra, and the guy's just blindingly smashing the keyboard, adept, they're probably going to run you over. So it was kind of boring and binary and not really what StarCraft's about. So they made the change, and so far it seems okay, but it's just kind of like the adept is one of those like boring-ish core units that has a cool ability, so I guess that's where the ish comes in. It's not super boring, but like instead of being really tanky, they added the attack upgrade, which I think actually is nice because it takes the focus out of the early game for its kind of key role and puts it more in the mid game and late game, which is kind of what they want.
You said it. The late game.
Oh jeez. Oh, there it is. That has to happen in every movie. The name of the movie is like, whatever.
Yeah. You said the name of the movie. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's cool. The attack rate means that you have to actually invest in it, and then it becomes more effective as opposed to just it comes as is, super effective. And I feel like the salt and tears about the adept have gone down a little bit, but it's only been a few days, so it's hard to tell.
Cool. I don't really have anything to add to that. Steven, you haven't had a chance to play against the new adapt, have you?
No, not yet.
Okay.
What was the change that they made?
It now attacks 45% faster with the upgrade, but it has it's 90-60 health, I think it is, instead of 90-90, and it doesn't get the shield upgrade. So it's quite a bit off its tankiness.
It seems like it still takes a pack of Marines out pretty handily.
It
Some
does.
of the gifts that were up, but I haven't had a chance to try it out. So I'll reserve judgment until we get to see it a little more. Hopefully, the Lycan League is going to be back next week, so I'll get a chance to watch a few more pros lay down. Assuming they don't cancel the beta anytime soon.
Yeah, it's interesting. They have not announced that at all, and it's like the game. I think, is it actually a straight up month from now, or is it November 9th the game comes out? It's 9th,
November
right?
10th. 10/10. That's a Tuesday.
Okay, then you're right. Okay, so 10/10, so a month and, some change.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually typical time to shut down. I mean, they're not going to. They're not going to be like, hey, surprise, beta's closed tomorrow. But it's funny because I hope they do, to be honest. I hope in this week or sometime soon, they're like, yeah, the final 3 weeks, we're going to close the beta. I know they want to test, and I know that they really benefit from the test, so this would be
even
like
with Heart of the Swarm, they closed the beta before the game launched, right?
Every game, man. I mean, that's normal. Like, you don't want to have people playing a beta and then the next day it just switches over into the game. Like, that's not very exciting, I feel. I feel like you want to build up excitement and suspense.
Wait, Wolf's in the chat. What aren't we allowed to talk about, Wolf? I don't know. All right. So anyway,
I'll find it. I'm a pro scroller.
So
I'll ban the fuck out.
While you do that, let's talk about shitting your pants.
What?
So,
oh, I know what you're talking about. I read these comments.
Oh, an offer for Blizzard.
Lycan's in trouble.
I thought that was a good way to intro this. All right, so let's make this fucking.
Oh, hang on. Let me address this actually, because you asked the question.
Go ahead.
Quick. So Wolf got asked by someone in chat, "Did you get an offer to cast BlizzCon yet?" I'm gonna make this a bigger picture. I've talked about this on my stream a few times, but I'm gonna use this opportunity, guys. Please spread the word on this, because this is something that in 2015, going into 2016, it has to stop. If you ask a talent person, "Are you casting X event?" and the event has yet to announce the talent for that, the person cannot tell you. They're not supposed to. They're asked not to. Think of it as like spoiling an exciting ending to a movie. It is on the events level to kind of build hype around that and announce that. Now, conversely, if it's post-announcement of talent and you ask the talent if they're on that, now you're taking a paintbrush, you're dipping it in the bucket that says lazy as fuck, and you're squabbling it around, and then you're swathing it on your body. You're literally you don't even care to look up the answer, you're just asking someone. So either they can't answer, or you're showing yourself to be mega lazy. Both of these are bad things. We need to stop. 2016 is going to be the year where it stops. Vote now.
Good luck.
New to your pets. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, that has to stop though.
No, that was moving. That was good.
Seems like Jeff is pretty triggered right now. People ask him if he's.
My jimmies are rustled a little bit right there.
Change we can believe in.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk shitting your pants, right? So the TLDR, and I'm going to say this just for the fucker who really hates it, right? I'm under NDA, right? So I can't talk about everything that happened over at the Blizzard, Palace, where I was invited because I'm a super special member of this community. I have sucked dick to relevancy. So I got invited by Blizzard to go there, as did Jeff, and so I can't talk about everything because it's under an NDA. Jeff, what? Have I mentioned NDA?
Was Jeff invited, or did he suck dick and was invited, or just?
No. No. Lycan's the one that flayed his way there.
Jeff was legitimately relevant.
Okay. I just needed a clarification on that.
I faked it to get there. Anyway, so the point is that after the first day, they showed us a lot of incredible stuff, right? And I made a post to kind of give an update because I figured this is what they wanted us to do, right? They get our feedback, they show us some cool stuff, and then we go to the community. And while we can't say everything we saw, we can say, guys, look, good shit is happening. We can't tell you what. We can kind of give you a rough idea, blah, blah, blah. So we've seen some things. We've had some announcements. When I said you're going to shit your pants, it wasn't just Blizzard will say one thing, and that one thing is going to make you go, mind fucking blown. That is it. That's everything we asked for. the pants have been shat and the game has been saved. The end.
Yeah.
It's an amalgamation of everything that Blizzard is doing, right?
This is kind of sounding like some broken promises.
No, Steven, don't.
Are you sure?
You have a very what's the word?
Influential.
Yes, your fan base can be easily influenced.
Okay. All right, I won't
Use
say
your
anything
powers
else
for
then.
good.
Okay.
The point is that it's everything, right? So we've already seen. Well, let me think. We've already seen the UI changes, right? We've seen some chat changes. Arguably, some people don't like the chat. Now, the point is that changes have been made to chat. UI changes have been made. You've seen that the arcade now has been touched. We've seen. I got clarification from Blizzard that I can say this. They are addressing map hacking. In a way. Can't say how they've done it. They were actually very limited on the details they showed us, but that's another piece of the puzzle. They're addressing the map hacking issue. There's a lot of things that have been announced, and people are like, "Oh, hey, yeah, that's cool," or "Hey, finally, thank God," you know what I mean? And it's that whole picture, the whole idea that Blizzard is listening and Blizzard is doing what you want them to do. That's the whole shitting the pants part. So because Blizzard's kind of trickling it all in, there's still more to come. That's not all. Everything that was released in 3.0, the things that have come in the weeks before. Oh, and also the automated tournaments. Let me tell you what. One thing I can say, you haven't seen the only feature of automated tournaments.
Yeah.
That's just what they've shown us now is, again, it's a beta, right? So there's a lot more coming. The pants shitting, you might have to look all back at it and then shit your pants, you know what I mean? But
releasing features and supporting the game beyond launch is a big deal as well. A lot of companies don't necessarily have that philosophy where it's more like, here's the finished product, there's going to be a couple of things, and then that's it. Blizzard has said, with Legacy of the Void, they're going to be updating allied commanders. They're going to be having a hand in on the maps as it goes on, and they're just going to be continuously balancing and updating the game as it goes, and releasing new content with Archon mode and allied commanders, which I think is really cool.
I think that was.
I didn't. Between all the time and stuff that you spend on like the late game and whatnot, I see you doing the esports stuff. I didn't realize that you did like the health stuff too or whatever.
The what?
Like the healthy shit. Like I can tell that you at the very least you must bike a lot, right? Because you just did a whole lot of backpedaling. I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm sorry. Keep going. Never mind.
That was
sorry.
Well,
good.
Well, that was dank me.
Well
okay,
memed.
thanks. Well memed. Okay, I'm done. Keep going.
Oh, but actually, Jeff, with what you brought up alone was like for me kind of like a pants shitting moment because there were a lot of people worrying that Blizzard was just going to forget about Starcraft after, right? That like the team was going to get split up amongst Overwatch and Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm. And in fact, Blizzard's like, no, every single member of the team staying on Starcraft. You know,
yeah,
so
that's
it's
pretty cool.
all those things. It's the Starcraft team. It's the post-launch continued support. It's all that stuff is kind of creating the picture. There's still
I don't
more
know
to
if
come.
I'm not sure if we talked about this before or not. I don't remember if I brought it up on here or not. But I know that a lot of people were getting like mad as fuck that like the Heroes of the Storm chat was being like implemented into StarCraft. That's actually like a really fucking good thing because Heroes of the Storm is going to be the fact that it runs on the same engine as StarCraft. Like that's really important because Heroes of the Storm, for whatever it is, probably going to get more support than StarCraft, and it's probably going to have a more dedicated team, especially since it's newer and it's their mobile and whatnot. The fact that any changes seen there can be implemented and ported over to StarCraft 2 relatively easily, like it's because at the very least they share an engine, right, and a lot of the same features. Like that's a really, really good thing for us if you're a StarCraft fan. Like that should be really, you should be really happy about that.
Yeah, we did talk about that actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So
just reiterating that then.
Completely agree, guys. So anyway, that's the I guess the skinny on the fucking shitting. It's the whole picture. There's still
Did
more
you
to
just
come.
make that saying up?
Huh?
That's the skinny on the shitting?
Well, he said you're going to shit your pants, and people asked about that in the thread.
Okay,
and
but then
people do say the skinny on
that.
something, but he combined
okay.
the two, and it just comes out Lycanish.
Okay, I've never heard that saying. That's the skinny.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Lycanish. I can't even. All right. Let's talk about. I think that's really StarCraft Direct specific related content. I think that's really all there is to discuss. Let's talk a little bit about G2A. There was a link posted in the thread. You know, the Sir Scoots News Network is actually very reliable in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to talk to any of the team owners or the guys working for teams that are heavily sponsored by G2A. So this was actually just brought to my attention right before the show. But that's kind of an odd thought. Jeff, do you see G2A as a company that could be pulling out of esports?
Well, I read into the article that Richard Lewis, either he himself wrote or at least posted from the Daily Dot, I believe. Anyways, he tweeted it. It's an interesting situation. It looks like wasn't the reason that I'm trying to remember now the article, I read it yesterday. The reason Riot's doing this is because G2A. What was the reason? Do you remember the article?
G2A was doing. They were doing boosting for League of Legends accounts.
It was against their TOS. It's listed on the G2A website. So Riot very heavy-handedly was just like, "Yep, you're not to be affiliated with us at all." I'm assuming I would venture a guess that Riot probably sent them an email or message, a desist or whatever, and just said, "Hey, remove that stuff from your service package, and we should be okay. If you don't, we're not okay." And
Right.
I would guess with this course of action that G2A did not either respond or didn't care. And it's interesting. It's very interesting to me because for the most part, G2A, by the way, is not esports affiliate. Like their business is not esports dependent at all. It's just esports is the best vehicle for their marketing to get the word out to people that you can buy cheap games off their website. So I think that's where the symbiotic relationship occurs, but they're not esports, like what they're doing is selling South African or East Asian games to Westerners for half the cost for the most part because of the price differences. And then a lot of times the controversy is people believe, and I think other websites, maybe not G2A specifically, I don't know enough to say without a shadow of a doubt, but also there's stolen copies that are sold as well, like crates off the back of truck type of thing sold at $0 profit to the company and 100% profit to those that own the copies of the game.
Yeah.
So that's where it gets a little bit weird. But is this their departure from esports? Probably not with just League of Legends. It means they go to a lot of those other teams and that don't have League of Legends teams or whatever, which actually is not that many when you think about it. Yeah. Sponsor them, but it definitely is a big hit, and it definitely is a change. I guess Kinguin pulled from esports for the most part, right? They're pretty gone.
Which is like the same company, though. It's like the same Kinguin, G2A, and there's like a few others that are like the same thing.
Yeah, I think
there was
so.
The article that I saw. It also showed some tweets from Complexity. I can't remember the person's position. It was either the captain or the coach of the CS:GO thing, but it was basically saying that they owe them money. And that someone else tweeted out that, hey,
this is the most fucked up part about that. It's not Riot, it's not G2A. Both of those will probably continue to go on. G2A I'm less certain about. Obviously, Riot doesn't give a fuck about their teams getting sponsored by G2A for the most part because they don't see any of that money. But there are teams, and for people that don't understand this, like what they do is they get sponsorships, and then that money kind of goes into their overall pool, and then with that pool of money, they say, okay, this year we can sign such and such player, and this is the contract he'll get for this year, and this is the amenities, and we know we can pay him that because we have these 9 sponsors that are signed through January of 2016. We're guaranteed that money. Well, if G2A all of a sudden is now looking at their contract with these teams and is like, well, you are asked to remove our emblem. That's definitely a part of why we're giving you this heap of cash. We're no longer going to be obligated to pay you that money because you're not fulfilling your end of the contract. But at the same time, that team is faced from Riot, and they're like, hey, if you want to be a part of LCS, you need to actually follow us, and if you don't, not only will we remove you from LCS, but we'll block you from we'll give you a 3-year temp ban where you can't be a part of it for that long. And then there's the other sponsors that sponsor that team because they have an LCS squad says, oh well, next year when we renegotiate contracts, if we sign with you again, it's going to be at about half value because that's what you're worth to us now. So it actually, we're talking about a dominoes effect of collapsing and hurting on a severe level a lot of these teams. And that's kind of, and this goes back to a bigger picture, by the way, of what's scary about websites and companies like G2A. Because they're shady as fuck, all of a sudden there can be a little bit of a controversy that tips one hand just a little bit too far, and then all of a sudden people are like, yeah, G2A is illegal, get out of here. And then that team is like, whoa, we just made LCS. That team represents 45% of our money that we need to keep these players. What the fuck? And then they go away. That's the scary part about this.
You can make some argument. If Richard Lewis is I'm sure you can make some arguments. This is also scary how much influence that Riot would have over.
Yeah, I mean, good it's actually a really good point that if Richard Lewis was here, he'd have a lot to say about that.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
Well, so
Sure.
he's in the Maldives right now. So I was gonna get him on for this week, but he'll have a lot to talk about. I know that Unfiltered is gonna cover a lot of that.
Sure.
And actually,
Show over. Wait, what's going on?
What?
He just
What?
introed for 2 seconds, real quick.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I went to Black to send you that link. So the next topic we're actually going to move on to is another one that Richard's going to have some great insight on. He actually released this article. It's not player unions, because everyone thought this at first. It's team unions, and a team union has formalized. And I think this is a very, I'll try to not be hyperbolic, and I'll try to not be a negative Nancy about it, but I don't like it. I'll say that outright. I don't think that the way that they're going about this is a good thing. So if you go to the article, I'll link it in chat for everyone else who has not yet seen this. And scroll to the bottom, and you get the copy of the email with the demands from this union, right?
Yeah.
So, Jeff, are you already familiar?
There's already a word for that. I thought it was just called collusion.
Well, so that's what I said.
The majority of the bargaining power.
That's what I said. I was like, teams or corporations, call them what they are.
This is like when Amazon or like Apple and Google formed that union to fuck people over in their paychecks. Remember this was in the news a week or two ago?
Yeah, when players and talent and actors and TV stars and musicians and songwriters and writers and workers and laborers, when they all come together and they act as a collective to bargain and work in the workforce, that is a union. They're uniting against people who have the power. When the people already with the power, the teams in this case, the corporations, when they band together, collusion is exactly what it usually is. And if you look at this, they have some very reasonable demands, and I agree. Thorin released a video recently on it.
Keyword on some. Yes, they have some reasonable demands. Yes.
Well, not to mention that if you start out in an area like this, of course you're going to look reasonable at first. Like everything on paper looks fine. Like any bad thing on paper, that's how bad.
That's what we're saying.
Well, no,
it's just some.
Just
some of their demands are reasonable. Is what he's
the biggest issue I have with this is going to fucking kill, absolutely kill any online-only tournament scene in Dota and Counter-Strike, and that is going to be horrible. It's kind of like if these organizations. This is what I'm wondering, because I don't think
that's less than $30,000. I think.
Yeah, and you have to have an offline finals, which means if you cannot afford. Oh, by the way, let's also include the fact that now you have to pay for these players that are members of this team union. You have to pay for the players' travel, right? So the onus, it's kind of mind-fucking. You have this group of teams that have basically said, hey, we're all banding together, and now that we're together, we're the best teams in the world. You have to pay our travel fees or we don't participate in your tournament. That's a great way to get the companies that are already struggling to market themselves, right? Marketing in esports with the global viewer base and the way the ads work on Twitch and this and that, these companies are still trying to figure out how to make money off of their brand. Yes, they're making money, but they're still trying to figure out how to do it consistently and efficiently, right? So now the teams come in and say, hey, you have to pay all our travel expenses. And you cannot run an online tournament unless you're going to have an offline finals, which means you can't afford an offline finals. You cannot afford to run a fucking tournament and have any of our teams participate.
Yep. It's that's what leapt out at me as well. Was not that they're like, I vastly, and maybe it'll get dialed back to this, but so here's the reason why they have this, because there's such oversaturation right now in Dota and CSGO, like we had in Starcraft, where every single weekend these players are traveling, and in between weekends they're playing these online tournaments. Like, it's just crazy. But I don't know why they would band together and say, we will hereby not play in online tournaments, because nobody's fucking forcing them except for the teams that ironically are signing this agreement. Like, if the team goes to a player and says, you got to play in such and such Chinese online league, it's $15,000, $20,000, it's pretty good money, and it's good exposure, we need you to play in it. Or the players say that because they also want to play the game and are money hungry, but nobody's stopping them from being like, hey guys, as a team we agree, we're too busy, let's not play in this one.
Yep.
Why do you need to make a demand that blanket murders so many online tournaments? Because
and here's the thing, why? The argument is that hey, now a couple of these like Face It, I don't Face It, Fragbite, these smaller ones that don't offer those large pools or those large pots would now have to band together, right? So then, okay, now you cut down a few. DreamHack, they run say 6 tournaments a year. Let's say 3 of those don't, that don't by themselves make the money that this organization agreement requires, well, then they drop down to 2 or 1. So now you have 3 big pot Counter-Strike tournaments per year. You know, for what do you call it? For DreamHack, right? Mm-hmm. So some people see that as a benefit. Some people say that as a viewer, I now have more to get hyped about. Kind of like last week we talked about just casters in general overhyping.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. You don't need a mandate to make that true. If players are overtaxed, if teams are playing in too many tournaments, then they should self-regulate, and then those tournaments will naturally adapt or fall away as well. But
the problem that I think
it's like making a policy where I'm like, I will only appear on shows that have 1,500 or more viewers, and then it's like, well, why would you do that?
I think the problem you're running into is that teams don't. This is getting like maybe a little bit conspiratorial, but teams don't want it to self-regulate, because where players would decide like, oh, like we can play in all these fucking online tournaments, maybe the team is like, oh, we don't want you to play in all these online tournaments. You know, it's diluting shit. It's everything is too saturated, and we would rather you just play in a few. But it's not. That's not necessarily in the best interest of the player, so that would never come about naturally.
I think that is the answer, Steven. I think you're right.
Yeah. So by doing this thing, it's like, well, now they force them, and now you're fucked.
Right.
You know?
So that's what I'm talking to, is there is definitely logic to it, and I think Steven actually hit the nail on the head. I think that is what's happening. This is being decided on behalf of the players, who would definitely more often than not be like, yeah, I could go for another $2,000 or $3,000, whereas the team doesn't get the exposure from that tiny tournament. They don't care about the 10-15% they get from whatever the overall prize pool is. They would rather their players are well rested, and then they get these mega big events that have millions of people watching. But that's just, it's what a bad message it is. There's so many leagues out there that are just like, oh. And by the way, if you're running a CSGO event in North America and you don't have Cloud9, or you're not bringing over a Fnatic and TSM and stuff like that, you're not a tournament. If you're a Dota tournament and you don't have your EGs, your Navi, etc., like if you don't have the top tier teams, you have just very middling teams, you just like set money on fire. Like it's just not.
Actually,
your return on investment's just bad.
Right. In this, it actually mentions North American teams getting a few special exceptions, especially for participating in online for less money kind of things.
That was just my example, but it doesn't exclude my point. Like,
well, no, right.
A European tournament, okay? If you don't like, and this is actually starting to happen. DreamHack and Gfinity and ESL kind of butting heads, having if they when and if they have an event on the same weekend, there are not enough interesting CSGO teams for the most part to split between 2 events at one time and have a meaningful tournament. Like, yes, it can happen, obviously, and yes, the viewership will be very good by all standards. But if you ask any individual part of that overall sum, they would all tell you they'd rather have separate weekends and have a mega event, which is unlike other games. Dota is actually a very close relation to that, I would say.
Well, one thing I was going to say, Jeff, is that EG isn't on this.
Right.
Did you hear any grumblings about this? Anything on the back end? Like, did you know about this before the article was released?
No, but we don't have a CSGO team, and our Dota team and the organization overall is owned by Twitch. So I think all these things that are kind of very political and very different, EG is just a completely different beast these days. Like, it's not Alex Garfield out there butting heads and grabbing sponsors. It's like mega corporate EG, if you ever thought it was. It now is. And with these kind of like political stands and demands and stuff like that, they've kind of transcended that. They're not worried. Like, if EG doesn't want to go to a tournament, they just won't.
Yeah.
And that's that. They don't need anybody else to back them up to do that. And their players are getting paid, and they're backed by Amazon, for fuck's sake. So it's all good.
I mean, Amazon is just as shady as G2A, so oh shit.
Someone said that, and
Crip said that on his fucking stream. I can't even believe he said that.
That's edgy to the max. That's edgy squared, I believe.
Is that a League player, Crip?
No, Hearthstone.
No, he's super famous Hearthstone, Diablo streamer.
Okay, yeah. So, one other thought about this, and Jeff or Steven, either of you can address it first. I feel like this is the team saying we are comfortable with the climate of esports right now when it comes to the tournament organizers. If they're ready to shut out anyone that's new and wants to start up, and doesn't have that capital to right off the bat have live events and big online events, they're kind of saying, hey, we're going to shut you all out. By shutting you out, we are happy with only having ESL, ESEA, DreamHack, Red Bull.
This is kind of weird because I actually I wrote a little blog post on this like fucking 3 years ago. I don't know if I'm sure you guys remember. At one point in time, MLG was forming partnerships with with some of the Pro League. No, it wasn't Pro League back then. It was with a bunch of like really good Korean teams. No, I think it was. Wasn't it for like the first Kespa players to come over? MLG was starting to form partnerships with some of Kespa, and it started to look like the direction that they were going to head was, if you want Kespa players to play in tournaments and you want us to bring them over, or whatever, they can only play in MLG tournaments, right? Which would be like a scary world where it's like, oh well,
Yeah.
what the fuck, like this is not, like this isn't good. So now if we ever want to see like, you know, Kespa players playing, if it's not going to be an MLG tournament, like they can't do it, like. And it seemed like that's where they were heading with that back then, but I mean MLG kind of fell through with Starcraft, but.
Yeah.
Well, that was there's a few funny things that happened back then, but yeah.
See, overall. Any final thoughts, Jeff, on the situation, the teams union?
Yeah, it's you know, the other side of this too, to play a little bit devil's advocate on their behalf. I definitely read the entire thing and came off as a little bit like oh geez, you know, like this is way too much travel to airports, hotel room for no more than 2 guys. Like a lot of those are actually insane that it has to be a demand, like 2 guys to a hotel room. That sounds laughable to some people, but I've definitely been to events where it was like, all right, all 4 of you are in these, you know, you both can share a bed, right? And we're like, it's been years, and the older I get, the more ridiculous it becomes, and it hasn't happened in years, like I said. But like stuff like that is part of the standard, and players are treated very poorly for the most part. But it's not the leagues, which is what's kind of ironic about this. A lot of times it's the teams, and the teams would tell you, well, we just don't have enough money to do this. But if the leagues take care of that, then you'll have the money. Like all of a sudden, you're not flying middle seat 4 connections, 30-hour travel day to this event where you show up the day before and are expected to win. Otherwise, the entire community calls out your career, type of thing, you know. And you're in a room where you're on the fucking floor, or you're next to a guy snoring into your face. Like these are the conditions that a lot of players have to deal with, and teams play the poor man where they're like, well, we just simply can't afford to do it, so it's got to be the leagues. But it's always just kind of like the shifting of the blame to somebody else, and then at the end of the day, it's the overall standards have to be raised. So that's what this is part of. Like the teams have bound together and are like, here's our demands. What's going to happen is the fucking leagues are going to bind together, or they're just going to be like, okay, well, you guys, you know, we can't do that. So if you want to come to our events, and by the way, we're holding a $250,000 tournament next month, then here's what you can expect.
One thing that I'd be wondering if I was a player is if you were on a team that was previously covering your travel and hotel and shit, and now they're doing these negotiations, like I would be asking my manager, so how much of a pay bump am I getting now that you guys don't have to cover my travel anymore?
Oh yeah,
right.
Because for some players, that getting that travel covered, for some players, if
part of
you're
the
not like an A-list, like that's the majority of your pay is like getting travel covered, getting these $1,000 plane. If you're doing cross country shit, like that could be the majority of a player's pay. Like, so that would be an interesting question to ask, I guess, if you were a player, if you're going to be getting bigger paychecks as a result of the.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's a rising of the tide, and it raises all the ships. Like,
I imagine,
yeah.
Jeff, I imagine that from, you know, even with the Starcraft and all this, I imagine that you think that these teams with 5, you know, the 5-member game, you know, like Counter-Strike, Dota, League of Legends, that's got to be their biggest monthly expense for the teams that travel.
Not, I mean, by 1,000 miles. Like, look at the EG Dota squad. That, you know, most of those events, their coach is going as well, and that's 6 people traveling.
Hotels, food.
And international, you're looking over $10,000, like just for travel. Like some of those prize pools start to look like, if you look at like, not to knock on anything particular, Dennis is awesome, but like if you look at like the Home Story Cup prize pool, like if you're sending 3 or 4 players to that tournament, like that prize pool is not looking anywhere near as impressive when first place is paying out, you know, a really low 5-figure range, and you're spending almost 5 figures just on travel and board. Like,
so on one hand, it's like, yeah, you need the players to promote your brand. So you need, you know, that I can see that angle from the team's perspective. You need our players to promote your brand. You need our players to make your tournament, you know, something worth people watching. But conversely, it's like, well, you need a tournament to promote your sponsors. You need a tournament for your players to do well.
Everybody needs everybody. There's a reason why it's called an ecosystem, right? Like everybody needs everybody. It's just a matter of everybody has to have, in a perfect world, equal representation, but everybody has to have some form of representation, somebody bargaining for them and their interest at the table, and then everybody will come together and figure out like what's the best solution for everybody. Because none of the cogs work if everybody's not there. The players need the teams to pay for anything and to travel and shit. The teams need the players for their exposure. The events need the players and the teams. The teams need the events and the players. Like, everybody needs everybody for everything to function. So.
And to be clear, by the way, like, this is actually, it's exciting because even if you have, like we obviously have, if you have kind of negative feelings and disagreements with some of the line by line for something like this, which I think we all do, you also have to understand this had to happen. Something like this had to happen because there was too much individual power and too many little different corners where it's like, you know, no, we're not going to offer you travel and you need to come here because you're sponsors. But all of a sudden teams are kind of rising and players are rising and leagues are rising too. All the power levels are rising. Someone had to start making demands. What needs to happen is there needs to be discourse between all the groups too. Like if this goes out there and then the league's response is you're all banned from our events, which would be like a cataclysmic nuclear explosion.
Which won't happen. Like that that can't happen. Where no one side is going to be completely excluded because again, like everybody needs everybody to function. I
think to kind of just close out this segment, I think that what might happen. Well, first of all, look at this, right? When you go in to make a deal, when someone says in a job interview, how much money do you want? You highball them because you know that they're going to counter with whatever you do. So you go with the number that you think is a little more exorbitant. And so maybe that's the case. Now, granted, a little bit of history in the back end, I believe Navi in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or Counter-Strike, sorry, is one of the teams that has been known for causing delays and being a real pain in the ass for organizers to deal with. So it's just kind of funny that that's the team owner, you know, spearheading this. But regardless, they're going in high. They're going with a lot of demands. Maybe they're expecting a counter. But I think that a players union could definitely be something because there are already players who've spoken out against, you know, this and said this isn't cool. You know, like just the other day, yesterday, something really awesome happened on I think it was either Face It or ESEA, and he said this is why these leagues are important because so and so would have never had a chance to really shine, and then he wouldn't have been able to get on. I can't remember if it was Titan or which team it was.
Sure.
So, anyway, so there's going to be a lot of discussion about this, and it's going to be exciting to kind of see what happens, what comes from this. We're getting to that point, guys. I think, Jeff, you know, you and Steven, knowing esports history more than I do, I kind of feel that this is another wave of popularity, so much like a third wave. Like you had the Brood War era, then you had, you know, Starcraft and the rise of League of Legends, and now this is kind of like a third wave where, you know, Turner is getting ready to launch 2 seasons a year of Counter-Strike next year. You have a lot of big things happening, a lot of people with TV networks, ESPN. So I feel like we're going through that third wave of popularity where a lot more changes are coming.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so the next thing, this is about CS:GO more than anything else, but depending on if any other event or any other game decides to kind of adopt somewhat of the Steam model, this may be something we deal with in general. Plus, you know, fantasy esports is kind of on the table too. So let's talk about skins gambling. Now, Jeff, Steven, are you both familiar with, you know, how the skins work?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Jeff, will you give them a real quick rundown of just how you acquire skins and then how the betting sites work?
Well, it's like in almost all the games right now, but it's like skins are obviously DLC kind of like content that you can either earn for free from random drops, and this is at least in the Steam. I mean, this is in Dota 2, CS:GO. I don't know if it's random drops in Heroes, but I know that you can buy the skins or earn gold, I believe, which is free in game. And then you can reskin your character to look like different things. It's cosmetic. It has no performance changes at all. It's just very cool. And then the gambling that's going on right now, and with CS:GO in particular, is you can take a value of the skins, which they do have money value to it based on an economy that is just how rare they are, how much they're desired, that kind of stuff, your usual economy. And then you can combine them together for a set value and bet them on either a match, or there's even just literally a CS:GO Shuffle, I believe it's called, where you just literally put your skins in with other people and then someone wins the jackpot. It's going back and forth. But the reason that's kind of controversial is because it's not literally just skins. People take those skins and say, hey, I have a Dragon Lore who wants to buy it for thousands of dollars. And someone PayPals you those thousands of dollars and you send them the gun. And then there's even ways to actually transfer the skins, like literally laundry them out to money as well. So it's this whole thing.
So the reason I'm bringing this up is because what is coming now into the discussion is children, kids under 18 gambling with these skins. Sir Scoots made a tweet last night, and I responded to it, and I seem to have a very different opinion than him, and I'm curious what your guys' opinion is on the matter as far as kids betting skins. And the analogy I used in the discussion was, you remember Pogs and Pokemon cards, right? I was in 2nd grade when Pogs came out. I was in 6th grade when Pokemon cards were at the peak of popularity. I bet both of them. With Pogs, you'd get a stack of them, and some of them were rare. Some Pogs were worth a lot of money. You turn your stack over, you get your slammer, and you fucking slam those shits, right? And if a Pog turns over, you get to keep it, right? That's how you played for keeps. Even in 2nd grade, I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was giving up. I knew exactly what I was risking. In Pokemon, you each choose a card out of the other player's collection. You say, okay, I'll play you for this card. Okay, I'll play you for that card. Usually you choose an even trade, and then you play. The winner gets to take the other player's card. In 6th grade, I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was risking. The only reason that parents and teachers and anyone else around you would say, no, don't do that, stop that, no, give him his card back, is because they didn't want to deal with little kids and giving up their stuff and losing it, right? It wasn't because the kid couldn't understand. It was because it is much easier just to say, no, don't do that, than it is to say, hey, no, you gave it up, fuck you. Obviously, don't say that to a kid. But anyway, so I'm curious if you think that these skins, which you can get for free, or you can get for a couple bucks, like I bought some really cool skins today for I think I spent $4, and I bought a lot of skins that were only a couple cents a piece. Yes, skins can be worth a lot, but that's a monetary value. They could go the way of the Pokemon card, where it's, Charizard that was once $250 at its peak is now $25, things like that. So I'll start with you, Steven, actually. Do you think that there's an issue with children betting these skins?
Yeah, so I had a discussion with Richard about this, and we have very, very, very different stances on this. Like, for me personally, I'm not. This is like, I'm not comfortable with like promoting gambling to a bunch of teenagers online. The big difference between like trading Pokemon cards and COGs is you usually had like a limit in place with like when you lost all your cards, like that was it, and any kind of addiction like from there on out would be much different. I mean, in the internet, or like it was harder for an addiction to fuck you over to like Pokemon cards or COGs, although everybody probably knows at least one person that maybe bought too many cards or too many Pogs or whatever. But like with online shit, it's so much easier to start digging into like credit cards and PayPal accounts and asking your mom and dad for money and to just dump more and more and more and more money. Like there's a big difference between having to like get up and physically go to a store to buy more booster packs for Magic or Pokemon cards versus online where you can just pop in your PayPal and empty the entire account out instantly or whatever. I don't know. I'm not very comfortable. I'm not comfortable promoting gambling to like a largely children audience online. It's just not something that I like.
Yep, I 100% agree. And the only thing I would add to that is, like, despite the more easily addictive quality of just online things occurring, I played online poker. There's a lot of people that went to groups for that kind of thing as well, where it's like, yeah, you put in $50, it's just a number, right? But then you put it in 5 times 250, and so on and so forth, and all of a sudden those numbers become real money that are having real effects on you. Whatever. We don't need to talk about addiction. It's such a huge subject. But like, it's the lack of regulation, and it's the introduction of something into a place that had not accounted for that at all, right? CS:GO was a game. It later introduced skins, and then the skins took on a gambling life of their own. And both of those are kind of intertwined. Big part of the reason why Valve's not even talking about it or addressing it on any level is because of accountability, but also because they benefit from it. Their game is fucking gigantic. And Sir Scoots, if you ask him and other people that are close to the subject, they would tell you on a huge level, it's hand in hand. Like, skins are a big part of the reason why CSGO is huge. And if you look at how much money is flying around, how many people are doing it, I think it's pretty easy to come to an agreement with that. So for me, it's more just like, it is a part of it, and people need to start addressing that and looking into it, because we're going to get that story that some fucking senator or governor is going to have where a kid just got ran away with it. He's 12 years old, found his mom's credit card, and just bankrupt the family on skins for a video game.
Yesterday.
Not to mention that if this kind of stuff were to actually go to court, this is all like a really big legal gray area. There's no way that this is something that would escape, like if somebody really wanted to challenge it, because how does it go? I think hosting an online gambling server like is illegal in the United States, even if playing on them is like technically legal. So like all of this is like a huge gray area, not to mention the fact that like minors are taking part in these things. And like it's very easy, like Jeff said, like you can see a dollar value very easily attached to like everything that you gamble.
Yeah.
Like actually I'm pretty sure that if you're on those sites, like the popular CSGO skin betting sites, like it'll literally show you the dollar value of the pot. It's not even displaying skin names at that point. Like you're only looking at the dollar value of the pot and the dollar value at what you're risking. Like that's it. It's not even like skins at that point. It's just money,
right.
essentially gambling.
Okay. So I guess I have a differing opinion than you guys. I get what you're saying, though. Like, just yesterday, there was a story, and this is kind of what has furthered my desire to discuss this. This kid was kind of giving his, his experience as a warning tale. And he is 17, and he played and took his mom's credit card, right? He talks about first how he just had a couple skins, and he turned it into $10,000 worth of skins, and then he lost them all, and then he went and got his mom's credit card, took $3,000 worth of skins, and now he's paying his mom back, right? And I like, oh, there's a crossover there, though, right? Because you can get the skins for free, you can get the skins for cheap. It is eventually, though, yes, you can go down the rabbit hole of getting them, for more. I agree with your point, Steven, about, as a kid, it was harder to get, go overboard with that because, hey, as a 12-year-old, you're not exactly making a ton of money, right? And you can maybe order online, but that's a stretch. Back then you weren't.
And you have to like physically going to the store and like doing that, I think is like, it's a lot harder to do. Like,
right.
Even like talking about like online poker, like at the casino, like if you run out of money, like at the very least you have to get up and go to the ATM and shit. Like online, like loading an extra $200 on a fucking Joker Stars or some shit, like that shit was a couple clicks away. Like it's much, much, much easier to throw away tons of money when it's literally right at your fingertips. Like,
yeah. Someone in chat's making a good point. Like someone said, 17 is an idiot, 21 is still a kid. Like, when I think about myself, yeah, at 21 I was doing stupid shit, but at the same time, do you think that it should be 18 across the board for these things, or do you think these skins might get a little, if some site's going to come in and make some sort of regulation, do you think it should be, yes, 18 legal gambling age, or like, we believe at 15 you're cognitively capable of?
I don't know. Now we're talking like national policy and stuff like that. And
Let's assume that legally the skins themselves, they don't fall under the normal gambling laws just because of what they are.
I mean, at the very least, if you're going for like morality, I would, I guess, whatever that means. Like, I guess copying the legal age would be like okay there, but that kind of a change is never going to come from the betting website because they're making a fuck ton of money on it. Like, they're not going to say like 14 and through 17, you guys aren't allowed to do this anymore because this is immoral. Like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And then also for I think what Jeff was saying earlier, it's really hard for Valve to come out on any kind of position because if Valve explicitly makes any statements about it, then anything they don't make a statement about is like implicit approval of it because they have started talking about it. So it's like, I don't know.
But also they're late to the party, and then they'd have to be held accountable to that too. Like it's been going on since the beginning of, well, not the very beginning, but for a long time now. And
it's easier for
good for them.
It's easier for Valve to just be like, oh well, that's the thing, and we've never wanted to touch with it or deal with it, and that's a whole other thing, and that's been our policy, and it's easy for them to say that and then distance themselves from it and not have to worry about it.
Okay, so we have. Hey, this is kind of cool, right? I agree with you guys a lot. And finally, we have something that I don't really agree with you guys on. I get it. I get your logic behind your situation, behind your stances. I just feel that how easily and freely you can acquire it, and the fact that it's something that could go the way of the Pokemon card, and eventually it's just not going to be valuable, right? But yes, right now at the moment there's.
I
guess monetary... like, do you feel comfortable like letting like a 14, like do you think a 13 or 14-year-old can make like good decisions about gambling?
I'd like to think that if I had a 13 or 14-year-old and I knew, like, let's say that, I'm involved enough, or let's say that skins gambling stays around for like 20 years, right? So 20 years from now, I have a 14-year-old, and I tell 14-year-old little fucking Duncan, hey, fucking kid, it was Dunkin' Donuts. That's where I got the motivation.
It's
Thorin.
It's okay. All right, yeah, go ahead.
Really weird.
Tell us what you would tell little Thorin. I guess you imagine having as a child, or
all right. I say, listen, Ginger.
Are you a spanking kind of household? Do you think? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so I tell the kid, look, I know you're getting into the skins. I know you like it, and I know I've given you a few of my own. I don't mind if you bet with them, but look, this is the fucking dangers of gambling and whatnot. And this is how you gamble appropriately. And then I keep an eye on them and I say, hey, don't use my credit card. You come to me, I buy you Steam cards. That's your allowance. You want to gamble that away? Fine, do whatever you want. But that's the end of it. You don't come asking me for more, and you can wait until your next birthday or allowance or whatever it is to get your Steam card. I have the relationship with my kid where hopefully, like, this is perfect world, right? I trust my kid. My kid isn't going to go out of his way to steal my card. My kid listens, and I can communicate properly. I'm a good parent in this situation, and I can effectively communicate the dangers of getting into a bad gambling habit. And I'm just being proactive and trying to make sure that they are in a situation where I don't have to worry too much about some bad shit happening.
Well memed. So like this is something where like I could be totally wrong, but like, and we're not gonna have this conversation now, but I wonder if you, I don't want to say that you're stupid or anything, but like if you knew more about like how like the learning and all that shit that goes on with gambling, like how that works, like on paper, like if you were talking about say if you were talking about like, I don't know, like drinking, maybe not the best example. If your kid's like an alcoholic or has a tendency, that would be bad, but like just the way that gambling like fucks with your mind, and I've done it your head in so many ways that some people like are fucked. Some people are so fucked like they just can't do it. And like maybe because I was working at the casino, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I don't think so. I feel like if anything, like the psych classes I took makes me more biased than anything else. Like it just feels like gambling just does so many fucked up things to your head, especially when you fucking win. Winning is the worst thing that can happen when you start gambling, because the tricks that your brain will play on yourself and all those fucking horrible, inefficient fuck ups of the mind where you only remember wins, you don't remember losses, you downplay losses, you gambler's fallacy. If you've lost a lot, you trick yourself into thinking a big win is coming. Like there are so many parts of your mind that work against you in a very natural way that if you're not wholly cognizant of every single pitfall of gambling, and then on top of that have strong enough willpower not to fall into the traps that you know exist, because there are people that do anyway, like it's for me personally, I think it's too much for a teenager to take all of that on. Like you would have to be an insanely mature teenager to win $2,000 in skins and then to lose a bunch and be like, okay, well, I got lucky and now I'm just gonna have, because there are adults that don't understand these concepts. There are people that even play thousands of dollars of poker online and don't understand things like what is a positive expected value? Like, am I actually playing well, or is this all gambling and I'm just being stupid? Like, I don't know. Like for me personally, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say I don't know. I would not trust a teenager to make those decisions. In fact, I wouldn't trust the majority of adults to make those decisions.
What about just the decision of, unless this goes back to I think I get what you're saying as far as the point of what it does to you mentally. So if I were to counter with, well, regardless of gambling, I tell them don't touch my credit card, the only money you get to spend there. But I assume that, what you're saying is that because of how gambling would make you feel, you're like, look, I'll take the credit card. He's never going to know. I'm going to win this money, and then I'll put the money back on the credit card and I'll get what I wanted out of it.
I mean, if that's your thing, I guess. I don't know. Everything I have about gambling is negative. I don't think it's a good form of entertainment. It's not very fun. The entertainment is very shallow. It's literally just like firing off as many fucking dopamine receptors in your head as possible, so that if you get a win, like you feel good about it. Like it's not very long-term fulfilling. It's like pornographic in nature, and that the indulgence is very quick and fleeting, and you have to get more of it. I really don't like gambling.
I agree with you though. That's when it comes to gambling.
So like in terms of like activities that I would be like promoting to like 17-year-old children and under, like it's just like gambling is like not even, I wouldn't even remotely consider trying to promote that kind of stuff. Like I'm not even comfortable with the motivating factors of like MMORPGs. Like even those use a lot of the same kind of like Skinner box mentality to keep people, clicking and clicking and clicking. And so I mean, I don't know. That's me, I guess.
You almost completely swayed me. Almost. I still kind of don't mind because it's free skins, but I get 100% what you're saying. I really do, and I can see that behavior being bad to promote to children. And it's kind of, I don't know. Jeff, any final thoughts on that?
No.
Okay. Well,
I like what Steven said.
Yeah, Steven has good points. He does. From time to time.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, but you think everyone has good points because you're too nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything coming here. You're like, we love you, like, but it's kind of like when your mom, when you like, you dress up or whatever, and you got like a new suit, and you're like, Mom, do you think this looks good? And she's like, oh, you look beautiful, honey. It's like, Mom, I don't give a fuck what you say. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're just gonna say that no matter what I'm wearing. You like walk in with like shit smeared on like your forehead. You're like, Mom, how do you think I look? And she's like, oh, honey, you're perfect. Like, okay, whatever.
All right, I'm going to tell you guys something, and let me finish it before either of you interrupt me.
Oh shit, it's gonna be
because
extra dumb, isn't it?
because
if you're starting off with that.
no, because if you interrupt me, then you can stop me at a point where I sound really dumb. But I want to finish the whole thought. So,
Okay.
I love my friends. I love the esports friends I've made, and I don't trust everyone to tell me if I'm doing a good or a bad job. I completely, to be fully honest, right? So when I play CS:GO, I don't play under the name Lycan, and I say, hey, do you guys watch Gfinity? And I'm like, hey, what'd you think of that fucking weird new guy on the analysis desk, trying to get some like genuine, open, honest feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I did this, I had just changed my name to Lycan for the first time ever in playing CS:GO, and I felt like an idiot because they saw there was like, obviously it's you. So the next time I do it, I bring my name back to what it normally is, and I say, hey, so what'd you think? And the guy's like, well, I didn't have a lot of time to really watch, so when it came to the fat guy with the beard, I stopped watching.
I don't think you're that fat. Are you? Do you think so?
Well,
I'm not sure. Maybe I need to see more pictures.
I trimmed down the beard, so like the beard I had was a little about an inch longer, and it kind of made me have this Jay Leno double chin kind of thing going on. So, but yeah, that's the last time I've asked someone if they watched it. That was the end of the story. But I figured if you guys cut me off, it might sound like I'm fishing for compliments on CS:GO. So
I wish someone would have cut you off, but yeah.
Yeah, I handled it.
Even if you're getting like bad feedback, like if you hear enough bad things enough, like at some point you have to deal with it. Like a lot of people, I know that a lot of online personalities disagree with this sometimes, and to some extent, like there's always going to be those few haters or whatever. But like if everybody is saying something that's negative, like at some point you have to stop. Like, okay, well maybe there is something that needs to change here. Just like a random. I don't know if you're fat or not. I haven't seen enough of you. I think to. I didn't think you were fat when I saw you, but you could have gained a lot of weight since then, so maybe you are. I'm not sure.
I'm losing weight actually. I've been trying to eat healthier. Go to the gym. I say that just after I went to Hardee's, but I haven't gone to Hardee's in a while, so
okay.
I'm under control. All right. So anyway, let me take a look through the thread. I don't think there are any questions because I think we addressed everything like a good proper show does. Am I right, boys? Am I right? We talked about the pants shitting and all that stuff. Oh, real quick, one final thought. GSL is going away. Jeff, Steven, both of you guys have been here for as long as you have. I didn't really have an emotional connection to GSL, but how does that make you feel that GSL's kind of leaving GOM and now it's going to be handed over to Africa?
Nah.
Africa?
I don't know how that's supposed
to be happening
said.
For a while. It was actually even last year it was supposed to happen, and then they held on for another year to try this different model with subscribing and stuff like that. They've just been kind of bleeding money and unsuccessful. So to be honest, for some people this is a huge deal. For me, I actually didn't watch that much GSL. I watched it in the earlier years, but then the ability to stay up till 3 a.m. to watch a match that may or may not be good until 5 or 6 a.m. every day is not possible. So
that was actually the cool thing about being in England is that GSL was on at a watchable time. Woke up in the morning and I think GSL started at about 10.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well memed.
Thanks.
I love you guys. All right, so we're gonna wrap the show up, guys. I think that's it. We've discussed everything. Jeff, anything coming up for you?
I'm gonna do a 24-hour stream tomorrow. I'm gonna wake up.
Oh shit.
About 8:30 a.m. or so, but there's no guarantee when I wake up. It's just that I have to start the second I do because that's how you do it. Gonna play Wings Liberty and Heart of the Storm single player because I did not complete Wings Liberty and I didn't even touch Heart of the Storm. And then I'm gonna play probably Heroes Might Magic 7, CS:GO, Starcraft 2, Legacy of the Void, and probably an XCOM playthrough. But just 24 hours of staying up playing video games because I haven't done that in a while. So it should be fun. So if you want, check it out. And that's that.
Oh wait, hold on, Ryan. What's the name of that Tom Clancy game coming out? Have you guys seen The Division or the previews for The Division?
A long time ago. I haven't heard anything about it recently. Not to say that there hasn't been news about it. I just haven't.
I think it's coming out soon. I thought I saw a booth next year. I guess it's coming out next year. I think I saw a booth for it at EGX. It looks pretty cool. So yeah. You just said something that made me think of that. Have you guys played Rainbow Six Siege yet?
I haven't, but I saw a cool like GIF or WebM or whatever of a dude like jumping on the side of the building and then putting explosives on it and then jumping through and killing some dude.
Nice.
There you go. Sorry.
Nice meme. Is that
Nice meme.
Is that,
Well memed.
All right.
A dank meme, I would say. Yeah.
All right. What's that? What time is that again, Jeff? 8 in the morning.
About there, somewhere around there. Just if you follow me on Twitter, I always tweet it out that I'm going live.
Okay. Cool. Steven, what are you up to?
I'm just playing them Hearthstone's got my druid deck, trying to get to legend again, you know? Rank 5 or 4, I think.
Did you give up on Minecraft?
No, I'm playing that right now. I just do that when I'm on talk shows, so I have more time for Hearthstone when I'm done. No, I still play a little bit, but I have to focus on the Hearthstone again because I neglected it a lot last year.
When you play
or last season, sorry.
When you play Minecraft, can you just like tell the server, hey, give me X number of certain mineral, or do you have to go mine everything?
Well, I mean, it depends on the mode that you're playing on, but if you're playing on survival, you have to go mine everything.
Okay. I still have only played like 30 minutes of Minecraft, so I'm not really too versed on it.
Sure.
Are either of you guys streaming after this?
I will be later, but not immediately after, no.
Jeff?
What's that?
Are you streaming after this?
No, I gotta run an errand, then I'll come back and stream. So about an hour.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna stream then. But yeah, thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. You can follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff Robinson, right?
Just EG in control.
EG in control. There we go. And at Steven_Bonnell, and then myself, of course, at LycanGTV. No underscore. Just at LycanGTV. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Have a good night.
Bye.
Oh, man.
All right, see you guys.
Have fun. Sorry.